When you're the greatest player that's ever played in an organization, name some of them. Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, jeez, Mike Schmidt, come on.
Beyond his offensive prowess, Schmidt's defensive skills were equally impressive.
There's nothing Mike couldn't do on a baseball field. If you needed a homer, he got it. If you needed a hit, he got it. If you needed a play, he got it.
If you remember his swing was effortless, man. It was one of the most, I think like a lot of left-handed batters, they have beautiful swings, right? I think, but Schmidt's swing was just, made it look easy. Everything, he made everything look easy.
548 home runs and almost 1,600 RBIs. And the defense, we'd see plays that he made at third base. It was magical.
1-1 pitch to Schmidt. Swing a long drive. That is going to be.
He's regarded as the best third baseman in Major League Baseball history. I wish I played defense like him. I wish I had power like him.
Long drive to left field. He buried it. He buried it.
Mike Schmidt was a star.
This is the greatest player in the history of the franchise.
And above all, our thanks for everything, Mike Schmidt.
Mike would be on that Mount Rushmore of sports icons in Philadelphia.
The 3-0 pitch. Swing a long drive. There it is. Number 500.
Very few all-time greats. Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana. These all-time greats didn't get to play their entire career in one city. And if you have a guy that great and he plays his entire career in one city, it should be amazing.
Philadelphia is the only city where you can experience the thrill of victory one night and the agony of reading about it the next day.
Philly was known as a great sports town if you performed. If you didn't perform, they would boo you in a minute.
Sports fans in other cities enjoy sports. Sports fans in Philadelphia derive their life's joy from the outcome of games from their teams.
I think they appreciated him, but they wanted to see more emotions on your sleeve. I'm not saying he didn't want to win. He wanted to win as bad as I did, as bad as Bull did, as bad as anybody. But he kept things bottled up a lot. And I think he got punished for that by the fans.
I feel he's the greatest third baseman that has ever played the game.
He became a very, very good hitter. Remember, he was a 250, 260 hitter for the early part of his career with always power.
You know, who is this guy, man? Is that Mantle? No, it's Mike Schmidt. Only Babe Ruth has led their league in the home run title more times. He did it 14 times.
This guy was a tremendous, tremendous player. I mean, great defensively, tremendous stance.
When I got to Philly for the '79 season, Mike was the best player in the league, I think. And there were some good players. And after watching me play for a year, Mike became the best player in the league 7 days a week. Not 3 or 4 or 5 days. Yeah. Because I made him understand that, Mike, I don't give a damn how good you are. You're not going to get a home run every day. You can lead with your base running. You can lead with your defense. You can lead with your leadership. And he did.
And then later on, late 70s onward, he hit, 290, 300. So he became didn't strike out as much, became a much better average hitter to go along with the great power and the RBI numbers. And of course, then he won the MVPs. He won the MVP in '80, where he carried the Phillies to the divisional championship.
And Philadelphia will forever hold a very special place in my heart. Thank you all. God bless you. Thank you all. First, my faith in God. God is the source for all my strength, physical and mental.
What happens when your greatest rival admits you are better than him? In 1971, George Brett went 29th in the draft. Mike Schmidt went 30th. For 18 years, they battled as baseball's best third baseman. The debate raged, Brett or Schmidt. Then, Brett finally answered. He said Schmidt was regarded as the best third baseman in baseball history, that he wished he played defense like him, wished he had power like him. This confession from a Hall of Famer is stunning, but it is just the beginning. Wait until you hear what Pete Rose was willing to trade for Schmidt's body. Pete Rose, baseball's all-time hit king, once said something outrageous about his teammate Mike Schmidt. To have Schmidt's body, Rose would trade his own, his wife's, and throw in cash. This was not a joke. Rose had watched Schmidt up close and realized this man was a physical specimen unlike anything baseball had ever seen. Johnny Oates, who played with Schmidt, called him one of the greatest all-around athletes he ever witnessed. Schmidt excelled as a hitter, dominated defensively at third base, played golf with a 3 handicap, crushed opponents at tennis, and probably could have mastered any sport he attempted. Yet his batting stance looked almost comical. Schmidt turned his back partially toward the pitcher and wagged his rear end while waiting for each pitch. Fans laughed. Opponents underestimated him. Then the ball would explode off his bat and disappear into the distant bleachers. Despite a career average of just .267, baseball historian Bill James said, if Schmidt had hit for a higher number, he would have been the greatest player of all time. The power, the defense, the athleticism, all in one package. With all this talent, why did Mike Schmidt almost quit baseball in 1983? Before Mike Schmidt became a legend, he was a failure. His 1973 rookie season was disastrous. Schmidt hit just .196 with 136 strikeouts in 367 at-bats. General manager Paul Owens and farm director Dallas Green demanded he be sent to the minor leagues immediately. Manager Danny Ozark refused. He saw something nobody else could see in the struggling rookie. Ozark insisted Schmidt stay at the major league level and learn through his failures. 3 years later, Schmidt was still fighting demons. In April of 1976, he entered a series in Chicago hitting just .167. His manager dropped him from third in the batting order down to sixth. The demotion stung. The pressure was destroying him. Teammate Larry Boa later revealed that Schmidt could not relax. Boa said people needed to remember the Phillies offered Schmidt his massive contract, that he did not force them to pay him. But the money made every failure more visible, every strikeout more painful, every boo from the Philadelphia crowd cut deeper. On April 17, 1976 at Wrigley Field, Schmidt needed someone to save him. That someone was about to change everything. Dick Allen pulled Mike Schmidt aside before the game at Wrigley Field. The veteran said something that changed baseball history. "Mike, you have got to relax. Remember when you were a kid and you would skip dinner to play ball? You were having fun. With all that talent, baseball ought to be fun. Enjoy it. Be a kid again." Schmidt borrowed Tony Taylor's bat that day, shorter and lighter than his own. He wore Terry Harmon's undershirt, which teammates said was loaded with hits. He was desperate for any spark of magic. The game started terribly. Chicago led 12-1 after 3 innings, 13-2 after 4. Philadelphia was being destroyed. Then something clicked. 5th inning, Schmidt crushed a 2-run homer completely out of Wrigley onto Waveland Avenue. 7th inning, he drove a line shot over the ivy wall. 2 home runs. 8th inning, bases loaded, Schmidt launched a 3-run blast off Mike Garman. 3 home runs. Game tied. Extra innings. 10th inning, Schmidt faced Paul Rochelle. The ball exploded off his bat, his 4th consecutive home run sailing into the Chicago afternoon. Final score, Philadelphia 18, Chicago 16. Schmidt went 5 for 6 with 8 runs batted in. The next day, he homered again, then again. 11 home runs in April alone. Sports Illustrated put him on their cover. Dick Allen had told him to be a kid. Schmidt remembered how to smile while he demolished baseballs. But the real test was still 7 years away. By 1980, Mike Schmidt had become the most talented failure in baseball. 3 straight playoff appearances, 3 straight eliminations. Swept by Cincinnati in '76, lost to Los Angeles in '77 and '78. His playoff numbers were humiliating. 182 average, 0 home runs. Philadelphia media called him a choker. Fans booed him mercilessly. Owner Ruly Carpenter delivered an ultimatum before spring training: win the championship or get traded. Everything was on the line. Schmidt exploded in the regular season, 48 home runs, breaking the record for third baseman. 121 runs batted in. Unanimous most valuable player. Every single voter chose him. But none of that mattered if October brought more failure. Pete Rose, who joined Philadelphia in '79, kept telling the media Schmidt was the best player in the National League. Rose said Schmidt did not realize how much ability he possessed. Rose nicknamed him Herbie Lee, constantly reminding him he could dominate like Joe Morgan had dominated for Cincinnati. The World Series arrived. Philadelphia faced Kansas City and George Brett. The two greatest third basemen finally met on the biggest stage. Schmidt became unrecognizable. He hit .381 with 2 homers and 7 runs batted in. Philadelphia won in 6 games. Schmidt was named World Series Most Valuable Player. Years later, Schmidt admitted the truth with humility. He said Del Unser got the 2 biggest hits of his life twice after he failed under pressure. That is what championships require. The choker label died that October, May 28, 1983. Veterans Stadium, Philadelphia. Montreal visiting. Mike Schmidt stepped to the plate 4 times, 4 strikeouts, 12 pitches total. The mathematics of complete humiliation. Rain delayed the game 18 minutes in the top of the 9th. Schmidt walked into the clubhouse and sat down, destroyed. Years later, he confessed what he was thinking. He actually considered retirement, getting in his car in full uniform and driving home to Ohio, just quitting baseball forever. Joe Morgan walked over. Morgan had joined Philadelphia that season after dominating with Cincinnati's Big Red Machine. 2-time most valuable player, champion, one of the greatest second basemen ever. Morgan sat next to Schmidt and started talking. One future Hall of Famer counseling another. Nobody knows Morgan's exact words that night, but they worked. Play resumed. Morgan singled in the bottom of the 9th. Philadelphia rallied and won. Schmidt stayed in baseball. 6 more years followed that conversation. In 1986, at 37 years old, he won his 3rd Most Valuable Player award with 37 home runs. Without Morgan's intervention on that rainy May evening, none of it happens. Schmidt later said Morgan was a complete player, a great competitor, a polished man respected by everyone. That was a great era of baseball, and not many players had Joe Morgan's stature in the game. Even the greatest athletes need someone to remind them why they started playing. 1989 was supposed to be another season. Instead, it became a funeral. Schmidt was hitting .203 with 1 home run in 42 games. His body was failing. Yet fans still voted him the National League All-Star starter, despite terrible statistics. In San Francisco, he misplayed an easy ground ball. 4 unearned runs scored. Standing on that field, Schmidt knew the truth. It was over. The team flew to San Diego. Schmidt told his manager he was finished. Larry Bowa, his longtime teammate, tried talking to him. Bowa said Schmidt told him that's it. Bowa asked, "What do you mean?" Schmidt said, "I cannot play up to my standards anymore." He told Bowa not to try changing his mind. May 29th. Before the game in San Diego, Schmidt held a press conference. He stood before cameras and reporters and began crying. Through tears, he spoke words that defined his exit. 18 years ago, I left Dayton, Ohio with 2 bad knees and a dream of becoming a baseball player. I thank God that dream came true. Grown men in that room cried with him. Schmidt walked away from baseball that day. He became the first retired player in history voted into an All-Star game. Philadelphia fans refused to let him go even after he quit. Ryne Sandberg later said he was taught in the Phillies organization to be seen and not heard by people like Mike Schmidt. The legend was complete. Remember how this began? George Brett admitted Mike Schmidt was the best third baseman in baseball history. That was not politeness. That was truth. ESPN described Schmidt perfectly. He was the great combination of power and finesse, with 548 home runs and 10 Gold Gloves. He could play the piano and move it too. The numbers tell part of the story. 106.9 wins above replacement, 25th all-time. Only infielder ever with 500 homers and 10 Gold Gloves. 3 Most Valuable Player awards. But numbers never capture everything. Pete Rose saw the physical tools. Dick Allen saw the need for joy. Joe Morgan saw the vulnerability. George Brett saw the complete package. They all saw greatness beyond statistics. Schmidt's legacy is resilience. From 196 as a rookie to unanimous Most Valuable Player. From nearly quitting in uniform to Hall of Fame with 96.5% of votes. If you love this story, drop a comment telling us your pick for greatest third baseman ever. Share this with a Phillies fan who needs to cry today. Check out our playlist on baseball rivalries. Next week, we are covering George Brett, and you will not believe what Schmidt said about him. Some rivalries end with bitterness. The best ones end with truth.